Hello guys, my name is Jun Kim, and I'll be talking to you today about React Native. Just going to be an overview for someone who wants to just dive in and start creating a mobile app. And today I'll help you learn about differences between web app, a hybrid app, and a native app. And we're going to talk about what is React Native, and just diving in and starting a React Native app. And differences with React, because we're all coming from React, and I'm going to end with a basic demo. So there are different types of apps that you can develop for a mobile device. First would be a native app. And what that is it's an app that is coded in the native language of the device. So you have language like Objective-C or Swift for iOS, and you have language like Java for Android. There's some good things you can take away with this. It's like you can take advantage of the native APIs and the functionalities of that device, as well as having a clean, crisp user experience because it's developed for that particular device. However, there's some problems, such as it's not cross-platform. So if I only know Swift, I can only develop for iOS, and that gets very expensive to develop since you're hiring separate developers for each of the devices. Sorry, it's not working. So another type is a mobile web app. So it's a web app. It's typically coded in HTML5, CSS, or JavaScript, and it's run through something like a browser. So that means it's cross-platform, so it can be accessed anywhere that has a browser. The problem is that you can't run offline because you always have to be on a browser. It has no access to the native APIs. And the last type is a hybrid app. It's a web app that is sort of like wrapped within a native app container. And that container is used to communicate with a native device. And some of the new technologies like that came out recently, it's like there's Ionic, PhoneGap, and Cordova. However, the problems with these, it's not as clean and responsive as you want it to be for a native app. So it's like there's a diagram here. So on the bottom, there's a hybrid app. You have the code inside, and the container is communicating with the device's native API. So, and then there is a React Native app. So what is React Native? It's a framework for building mobile apps using JavaScript and React. And why should you use React Native? There's many advantages, like you're making a real native app and not just a web app or a hybrid app. So the user experience is very fluid, it's clean, it's fast. And you're making a cross-platform app with just a single language. So you can use 80% to 100% of your code for both iOS and Android. And it uses all the React concepts that we all know here in full stacks, so such as like components, state, props, lifecycle hooks like componented mount and things like that. So that's very good for us. How do I get started? And this is assuming that you're able to run React already. So you have Node, you have code editor, things like that, and then you go to the CLI and you say npm install g React Native CLI and start a project saying React Native init and the project name. And that will bring you a boilerplate where you can start playing around. So how do I run or view my app? Well, you have to first go in the folder and then say React Native start, and the Webpack will package that for you. And then for iOS, to view the app, you have to have Xcode and say React Native run iOS in the CLI, and that will bring up this image on the top right. You see on the top right. And for Android, you have to get Android Studio. It's either that or you download a program called Expo, and that allows you to view the actual app on your own mobile device. So Expo will generate a QR code that you scan, and you are able to look at your app in that way. So when you make a boilerplate, this is what the code looks like. You're importing this. You're importing app registry, style sheet, text view. These are the components, like tag components of React Native, and in the render function, you see a view style, and view is like a div in React. In React, it's HTML. In React Native, we don't use divs. We say view. Because this is not HTML, it's a tag component of React Native. So on the bottom, we're using the style sheet and running the function style sheet that create, and this is where all the styling happens. So it's within the same file, and you're able to just justify content, align items, and as you see, it's in camel case, because we're in a JavaScript file. So if you use a hyphen, it will think it's a minus, so you have to use camel case. So the different tags that are in React Native, it basically, div is like, will translate to view, span translates to text, image is image, and so on and so forth. And there are many more tags and different functionalities, and the documentation is very good. And feel free to go check them out. There's some styling differences, like I said, the style sheet that is in the same file. And another thing is that it uses a Flexbox. Flexbox is built in, and Flexbox is a technology that is not unique to React Native. It's part of CSS, but you will notice that there are some differences when using Flexbox in React Native. So be careful of that. And then, yeah, in the camel case, you said that. There's some touch handling differences, touch events, because it's a phone. There's a pinch, swipe, and rotate. And pan responder API is available. It comes packaged. And pan responders reconcile several touches into a single gesture. And it makes single touch gestures resilient to extra touches, and can be used to recognize simple multi-touch gestures. And some of the touchable components are buttons, touchable highlight, touchable opacity. And there is also scroll view. And what scroll view is when the height of the component exceeds the screen's height, you're able to scroll up and down using like a drag gesture. There's some other tools like animations. For animations, there's the animated library. You can change the opacity. You can drag things, move components around. And just for Android, there's a drawer layout Android API. And then there's navigation. So in React Native, a page is called a screen, and there's an API called React Navigation, and you can just install React Navigation, and then run, when you import Stack Navigator and run the function with it, it will slide in the next screen or remove it, and then you can jump from screen to screen using that way. And the Navigator iOS is a different way to navigate through screens, and it's only available for iOS. Some other APIs that interacts with the phone itself, there's async storage, camera roll, and geolocation. And I have a basic demo that I made, and I don't know if you can, sorry. Oh, can't move this up. Oh, there it is. So this is, drag this up. So this is sort of like where you could comment on pictures. So I can add a hello, and this button will cause this component to appear. And you can notice that it's like fading in, and I'm using an animated API that makes the opacity go from 0 to 1. So I can do that again. And then keep typing, and then let's add some more comments in here. because I want to see this area in the bottom. It's what is called a scroll view. If you can look down here in the code. Oops, that's index. Yeah, we're using scroll view over here. What that does is, since the height of the components is exceeded, I'm able to drag up and down. And then, let's see. So this is this part is the navigation. So if I press that button, the next page comes up. And that is done using Navigator. Let me see. Let me just show you the code over there. Let's see. So on the top, there's this simple app, and Stack Navigator is imported from React Native, and it knows that home screen is this big chunk of code up there, and chat is next scene, and that next scene is the component that's in this file. So when you press that button, when you press this area, it knows to jump to that scene, and it brings it in automatically, and you can go back as well. So let me go back to the talk. Yeah, so let's just recap what we just learned. So we know a lot of advantages of React Native and why you should use it to make mobile apps. And you know some of the differences with React and things you got to watch out for. And there's some different APIs for styling, animating, and navigating. And just with that, like, you can just dive in and start creating some awesome apps. So I wish you guys good luck, and thank you for listening.